Today I will be making a video on all the tools you will need in your ceramics journey. We've got the wire tool. This tool is used to cut clay. Most of the time people use it to cut clay. Sometimes they'll use it to sculpt clay. So what you do, you pull it tight and then go through whatever clay you'd like. And there you go. Nice, easy, flat cut. Then, with our wire tool or our needle tool, we can also cut clay, but you'll normally want to use the needle tool for smaller amounts of clay and thin clay. Another thing you want is some concrete board. You can get this at Lowe's, anywhere like that has building materials. So this is useful because it helps the clay not stick to the surface. You can slam down your clay and it'll come up nice and easy with not really messing up your clay. You do get concrete board with any type of wording on it or anything. You can use a wooden rib. What these do is it flattens out the clay. You're going to hold it and firmly press on it. Not too firm to where it's digging into the clay, but to where it's just gently scraping the surface level off or flattening it. As you can see, it gets very nice and flat. It's getting rid of all those indents. This also helps to smooth out your clay if you have a roller. Also, if you want to flatten out your clay, you can use a rolling pin. It's very useful when it comes to flattening out clay if you don't have a clay roller. Right now I do. I just want to show you how to get your clay nice and flat. You want to go one direction and then go the opposite direction so that you're smoothing it out and flattening it all evenly. Now you don't want to go too much on one side because that can lead to dips. But you do want to use a lot of force when rolling these out. Once again, not enough to where you're digging into the clay and making indents like that. We don't want that. We want nice, evenly layered clay. Clay rolled out, you'll always want to use the wooden rib to smooth it down. First of all, you want to go downwards, and then you want to go the way that's congruent with the way that you just went. So now I'm going to go sideways. Alright, now that that's decently flat, if you want it even smoother than that, you can use one of these silicone ribs. These are nice for smoothing out clay even more, and I use these a lot when hand building. Now I know you can't really see how well this is smoothing it, but it does a lot greater job of smoothing it than this. This is mostly to get it flat. Also, you can use a sponge to smooth it out. You'll most of the time want water when using a sponge, okay? You don't want to do it dry because then it leaves these nice little lines that you can't really see because my camera is not the best. But right there, you can see it. Yep, those little lines right there. You don't really want that. Some people do. You can use sponge for a lot of things like texture, smoothing. But when they're wet, see, like right now you wet down the clay, and use the sponge, it'll help make those lines a little more gentler. And if you want it smoother than that, use the silicone one. Bam. Very smooth, as you can see. Well, maybe not. Yeah, very smooth. Also got a metal rib. Now, a metal rib is mostly used for throwing on the wheel. Some people use it for sculpting. I choose not to. It's whatever your preference is. Clay is very moldable and very usable. Now, what this does is it smoothens it and also gets rid of any wet layers. It's a bit harsher because it's a harder material, but it also does a good job of smoothing out the clay while also getting rid of moisture. See, that's all slip. Slip is clay it's very watery. Yeah, as you can see, it does a pretty good job of smoothing it out. This part is where the needle tool comes in very nicely. It's meant for thinner stuff. You see, this stuff isn't too thick. It's about, I'd say, a centimeter thick. Get your wire tool, or your needle tool, sorry, and you place it down wherever you'd like, and just cut right through. You kind of want to do this at an angle in which the clay is being pinched, not like a bulldozer. You don't want to go this way with it. You want to pinch the clay against the surface that you're on top of. And it leaves a nice line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this one into thirds and show you how the bevel works. Now, the bevel is used to cut angles into clay for slipping. You mostly use a bevel to create angles where you connect walls to make like a box or the bottom of a mug if you use that technique. But it has 3 different angles. It has 30-degree angle. Oh wait, no, this is the 30-degree angle. This is the 60-degree angle. And this is the 45-degree angle. What you want to do with these is put them right on the edge of the clay. You see that? And then you want to drag them with all along the side of the clay. Like so. And that leaves you with a nice 45-degree angle. Or you can use the other angles, like the 30, sorry, get those two mixed up all the time, or the 60. Right here is the 30-degree angle. I was right, I wasn't thinking about it. Leaves a much narrower angle. I'm gonna throw that off. But yeah, makes good corners, even. Then I'll show you the 30-degree angle. As you can see, it's a very small angle, like a slightly less than flat. You can also use a clay knife for this. Most of the time, I do not use a clay knife for this because the thickness of the blade tends to be a lot less controllable than the needle tool we used beforehand. This one is more for just slicing pieces off of clay, like that. Like I said, I normally prefer the needle tool, but clay is whatever you make it and however you like to use it. You can also make angles with this. just angle it. It does make angles, however, they aren't going to be as precise as if you use the bevel. You want to make a circle size hole in your clay, you can either use the needle tool, which it is as precise as you make it, but we also have hole punch tools. These are very good for poking holes through stuff. You just poke it and spin it around, pull it out. There you go. Got a nice hole through there. You might have to smooth it out with your, and then yeah. There's also, that comes in many different sizes, and you don't have to use this. You could use a straw. That would work too. But just punch it in, spin it around, pull it out, poke it through again, and there you go. Got a nice hole in there. However, these things are a pain in the butt to clean out. Sometimes the clay will get stuck down deep in these holes, and that'll mess it up a little bit, but yeah, you mainly want to use these on thin clay. Next up, we've got these loop tools. These are good for carving. You'll also use these to trim when you are throwing, but I'll show you a video of that later on. But you can also use these when hand building to carve out little lines. You'll mostly want to use this when it's at the leather hard stage, which there are a few stages of leather or of plastic, like the hardness of it, which all are, you use tools and these can be different with each level of hardness. The square one will carve out a sort of angular hole, while the circle one will do more rounded valley hole. Like somebody dug their finger through a cake or something. Now I'm going to show you one of the most important tools we have is the scoring tool. This is the tool that you will use to connect two pieces of clay. As you can see, we've got two pieces of clay here, both flat and not yet marked or scored. You see, it can kind of hold it up, but if you slightly tear at it, it'll pull apart. And especially when it dries up, these two pieces will crack apart and it won't work. However, when we use the scoring tool to gently score the sides, we can get a different result. You want to score whatever two pieces of clay you are connecting at the connection point. So, as you can see, I'm going to put two walls together. You want to make sure that they're a little wet. So what I do is I hold a spray bottle pretty far away and just spritz it once or twice so that there's a little bit of moisture between all those scores. And then I'll push them together, and then at the points I'll slowly make sure they're fully pressed together. Like so. And these two, they're very strongly connected. You can use a lot more force to pull them apart, but if they're scored correctly, then it's very easy or it's very hard to pull them apart. And what can make this connection even stronger is, I'll go over this more in another video, but if you blend these two pieces together, like so. I'll go over this a lot more in another video and a lot more in depth. As you can see, we've blended it all together, and now it is just one piece of clay. If you don't do a good job of blending, the clay will eventually crack after it's dried to bone dry, sorry. I'm going to blend the other side to make it even stronger. Once again, I will go over this all in another video. The process of connecting two pieces and making sure the connection is strong. As you can see, both sides are connected. It takes a lot of pulling to get those two separated. And there you have it. Those are all the tools. Some tools aren't used that I haven't shown some tools today, but I just showed many of the essentials that I believe will help you out the most through your journey in ceramics.